Hi, I'm Jenny Hepler, and welcome to this episode of Connect, the live show that connects your challenges with our solutions. Today, we're talking about why PMO skills matter. We will discuss why the House of PMO was started, the resources it provides, as well as why specific skills in PMO can increase your success in an organization. As we're streaming live to both LinkedIn and YouTube, please feel free at any time during the show to submit any questions you have in the chat function on either LinkedIn or YouTube. You can find out more about what we do at APMG on our website at apmg-international.com. And to find out more specifically about our topic that we're discussing today, just scan the QR code that you'll see on the screen throughout the show. We have an amazing panel with us today. We have Eileen Roden and Lindsay Scott, the two founders of the House of PMO, as well as Patrick Girard, president of Okazy Consulting. Welcome all, and thank you so much for being here. So let's start the show by letting the audience know a little bit more about each of you. So we'll just go around the panel. Patrick, can you tell the audience a bit more about yourself and your company?
I'm Patrick Girard. I am the president of Okazy Consulting. I'm based in Montreal, Canada, and we are training people on House of PMOs.
Thank you. Next, let's go to Eileen. Can you give a brief introduction of yourself, please?
Hello, my name is Eileen Roden. I'm one of the co-founders of House of PMO with Lindsay. I'm also the lead author for the House of PMO's Competence Framework and the chief examiner for the House of P Essentials certifications that we're going to be talking about today.
Great, thank you. And last but certainly not least is Lindsay. Can you please introduce yourself to our viewers today?
Yeah, hello. Hi, I'm Lindsay Scott, and the other co-founder of House of PMO. I'm responsible for mainly the kind of resources side of House of PMO and managing the kind of events that we put together, all the additional stuff that wraps around, the qualifications and things. So essentially the House of PMO is a membership body. So a lot of work goes into to making sure that runs okay.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone, for being here. So we're going to get started. And just as an introduction, so having worked in a PMO myself, I certainly understand the challenges and the complexities that can be involved. So I know that having the right resources, tools, and training can make all the difference to the success of a project. So some of the viewers watching now may have also worked in a PMO. They might be in one now, or they could be in project management and interested in gaining more specific knowledge. So that's why I'd like to ask the panel some questions today to hopefully give you, the viewers, something to take away from the show and to follow up with us on. So let's get the show rolling and talk about everything PMO. So I'm going to start with you, Eileen, for my first question.
Okay.
Can you please explain what is a PMO?
Okay, so interesting question in terms of trying to get a succinct answer to this. Essentially, it is a business function that provides oversight and support for an organization's projects, programs, and portfolios. But the interesting thing is when we talk about support, people immediately jump to, oh, well, that means project administration. So we maintain risk registers. Well, actually, support is a lot more than that, because it's the PMO that provides all of the processes and the systems, as well as hands-on support to the delivery teams. One of the reasons why there tends to be some kind of mixed views is because in organizations, they have the function potentially in different offices to do different things. So they may have a very small PMO that looks after an individual project. They may have quite a reasonable sized PMO that sits perhaps in one department or a geographical location, or they may have one that sits at the top of the organization, which would be an enterprise PMO. They're all doing kind of very different things, and therefore they can appear to be very different kind of things to work in. But essentially, in a perfect world, you would have a PMO director who sits at the top of the organization, who develops what we would call an integrated PMO model that says, actually, to support all of the projects and programs in this organization, we need 3 officers over here, a couple of officers over here, a bit like the finance function does, and decide what each of those officers does, so the organization has all of its projects and programs with the right level of oversight and the right support.
Perfect, thank you. So to add to that, I'd like to now go to Lindsay for my next question. And that is, so what gave you the idea to start the House of PMO Institute?
Oh, okay. So I think from what Eileen's just said about the fact that PMO means different things to different people. And I used to work in PMO many moons ago. And one of the things that I really struggled with at that time is trying to understand what's possible, and also being able to chat to other people that do a similar kind of job to me. I think one of the things that you tend to find is that within organizations is that there's not many PMO people. One of the, I suppose, the most popular sizes, and that you see quite a lot, is that it'll just be a PMO with one person, or maybe 2, or a team of 5, or something like that. And generally, you want to be able to access different, is there a different way to do things? Is there, you kind of rely on, you only know what you know, and you're not aware of what's possible. So I really struggled at that time when I was first doing the role. And of course, naturally, you try to find, training, and maybe that will help, but it didn't exist. And so really, that's driven me all the way through my career around PMO, is actually getting people together is really, really powerful. That allows them to have space and time to talk to each other, to learn about different aspects of PMO, because there is so much to learn. It is such a multifaceted role, and with lots of different avenues to explore, depending on the kind of PMO you're working in, what your organization wants your PMO to do, what it might be doing today might not necessarily mean what it will be doing next year or in 5 years' time. The landscape continuously changes. And, having a place where you can get together with other people that are doing a similar thing to you is actually really powerful. So that's what we've been doing. It's a community. We've led, many events over the last 20 years. I think Eileen and I have been working in this space. And essentially, we were just thinking, what's the kind of analogy that would work really well? We didn't want to have a PMO institute, or, our vibe has always been, it's based around people and like I said, the community and the network. And a house works really well because it is about, come inside, come and have a look in the library, let's get cooking in the kitchen, all of that kind of stuff. So we have a bit of fun with it. But that's why we came up with the name. We really wrestled with it, to what we were going to call it. But yeah, I mean, that's the beginning of where we came from. And, hopefully we'll be adding more and more rooms to the place as PMO continues to grow and strengthen and becomes a true profession in its own right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it's a great name because it is very welcoming, as well, and all encompassing. Eileen, do you have something to add to that?
I think as well, it's also about, which is, kind of, we'll come on to talking about some of the qualifications, but I spent a lot of my kind of early years after been working in a PMO, doing project management training. And very often when I was doing project management training, I would talk to people who worked in the PMO in that organization, and they would sit through the project management training, but there was nothing for them in terms of, well, project managers do this job, program managers do this job. But but what do I need to know in order to best support project and program managers? And that's always been a huge kind of gap in the market. So part of the kind of the House of PMO is providing support for people who work and are trying to support projects and programs. And so all of the qualifications that we're developing and the text that we're writing, saying, yes, we recognize project management, but these are the people who sit behind those project and program managers and make their life easier to deliver projects and programs.
Exactly. I wish I had known about you earlier and all of the resources and certifications available. So speaking of certifications, that actually brings me to my next question. This one's for you, Patrick. So why did you decide to offer the House of PMO certifications?
First, I was a little jealous of the idea of the House of PMO because in my background also I was in charge of two big PMOs in my career, and the first one was I was struggling to find materials, helps, tools to work with the people that are in the PMOs. So when I saw that someone have thought about it, and I said, "My God, we want to offer this because I know that it's something that is a miss in the market, is a gap in the market to help the people that support program project in the PMO." So in my first PMO, we had, I think, I had a big PMO. I think the PMO was maybe 20, 30 people. So and how to manage these people, how to help them have a career path in the PMO. It was, we just invent a lot of things, and it took us a lot of time, and the time that we put on this, we didn't have the time to support the people of the program and project. So if we have something that is already done, we can accelerate our support of program and project. And one other thing is that in organizations, a PMO has always have to fight to show their value. It's always the first thing that when something is not going, we don't have money, I will cut people from the PMO because it's only support, and it doesn't deliver value. So if we are able to show that we are bringing value to the organization quickly with something that is well taught, is well structured, it will help us really bring value to the organization. So when I saw this, I said, people need this. People in PMOs need this, and for this reason that we decided to offer this as a training, as a certification.
Absolutely. Lindsay?
Yeah, I just wanted to just come back to you, Patrick, and it makes a great point that I'd not actually really thought about before, where he said about the accelerating. Because I think what we'd found is that, certainly for people that are coming into a PMO role, maybe at an administrator level or an analyst level, generally what tended to happen was that people would start in those roles, and as Eileen said, they may do a bit of project management training, and that was about it. So a lot of the learning came on the job, which is fine, but it takes time. And it's certainly interesting now where a lot of people around the world are still generally working at home. So it becomes even more difficult to learn on a job. And when we put together the essentials courses, they are about, those essentials you need in order to be able to do those roles. And it's giving that foundation, which then when they, in the role, they can start to accelerate, what they're learning on their job makes a lot more sense because you've got this baseline knowledge and understanding of the role and what's expected of you. So I like that, Patrick. I'm gonna take that word and I'll be using it again, no doubt.
Keep it.
Perfect. So another question for you, Patrick, would be, because you're based in Canada, how do you see these certifications being relevant in the North American market?
We have big PMOs in Canada. We have big projects. So it's not a matter where we are in the world, it's what we are accomplishing. So in Canada, we have a big infrastructure projects that need to have big PMO. So this is something that if we want to, I will say again, Lindsay, just for you, if we want to accelerate to put in place the PMOs, it's something that it's worth it to look at it and find way to implement this in the PMO and to be able to support quickly the program or the project that is we are building. So this is for me, it's really something that every PMO has to look at and implement in the process.
Absolutely. So if we want to turn and steer the conversation a little bit, this one's for Eileen. So why do I need a PMO?
Well, I think the interesting bit is how the use of and the existence of PMOs has really grown over the last 10 to 15 years. Because if you're running projects in your organization, then it will need oversight and it will need the right processes and procedures to run it. Now, if you're running one or two projects, obviously, you're not going to need a PMO manned with 20 people. But as the organizations get bigger, even small organizations these days, they'll probably be able to list off, half a dozen or a dozen projects that are currently happening to kind of move their business model on. The world's changing so fast. There's constantly new processes, new procedures, new bits of IT, how our businesses are changing, that we use project management implement those changes. And if we want to keep those projects delivered in an efficient manner and we want the right balance of projects and business as usual, then you'll need some kind of PMO. But again, when we say you need a PMO, it might be, as Lindsay mentioned, there's lots of organizations where the PMO, and we certainly see them on some of the courses, where the PMO is the personal assistant of the chief exec who's been told, get me a list of all of the projects and keep me updated them on a weekly or a monthly basis. Now that's the essence of a PMO. Just tell me what's happening in projects and make sure we're doing them correctly. We're making the right decisions. Whereas if you've got an awfully large kind of international organization, then actually you're going to have multiple PMOs across the whole organization with very sophisticated tools and intranet to support. So really any organization now, which is why, as I say, we've seen this real kind of proliferation of PMO roles across the globe.
Absolutely. Patrick?
Yeah, and sometime in some organization, they will not use the word PMO, like Eileen said. And sometimes the word PMO is, we don't have to say that because it's we had a bad experience before, and now it's we call it another name. But at the end, is responsibility of a PMO. So we have to recognize that. We have to see what exactly they are doing. The responsibility is more important than the name. Every organization that have 1, 2, 3, 4 projects need to have an oversee of what we are doing, because just to prioritize the projects, just to see where they are. So we need to have some kind of entity that is looking at it. Call it like you wish, but you need to be sure that you're using the right process to do it.
Thank you, Patrick. So if we continue on that thought, Eileen, how would having a PMO certification help my development to become a better PMO practitioner?
I think it's building on some of the things that Lindsay said, in that if you start working in a PMO and you're just dependent on your immediate experience to let you know what PMOs do and how to do those things, you've probably got quite a narrow view of a PMO. So what certifications will allow you to do is recognize the broader role that a PMO can do, the broader services that they may want to offer. And again, I'm going to pinch your word, Patrick, to accelerate your usefulness to the organization. So understanding some of the kind of the why PMOs are there, what their purpose is, understand how to set up and design a PMO, understand, kind of the whole concept of services and the services we offer to our customers. So it really says your PMO might be doing 1, 2, and 3, but actually, did you realize that a PMO can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different things, and allows you to kind of, again, have that immediate knowledge to be able to start helping the organization look at how best the PMO can add value.
Lindsay?
Yeah, I think there's another side to this. I've always believed that having access to training and certifications and things like that really do help in terms of confidence as well. And I think that's an important thing, especially with these essentials, because they are all about the the essential competencies that you need in order to be able to do these jobs well. And if you are moving into PMO for the first time, that can be daunting. You get there. I'd love to get into project management. I think PMO might be the right place for me to do that. But there is a lot to know. There's a lot to learn. It's not difficult. It's just that there is a lot of it. And I do believe that having formal training does give that confidence to, yes, I'm starting to understand the language, the terminology. I'm beginning to think of kind of questions to ask and to learn more. And I think that's ultimately the reason why I take and do certification based training is because I do want to have more confidence in the subject that I'm pursuing. So yeah.
Absolutely. Patrick, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, it's just to say that, and one thing that it's looked at, you're not alone to have the same problems. That the problems is the same in a big or a small PMO. You will see the same problems. So with a formal training, you will see how to recognize that it's normal. Your problem are normal, and to give you some tools to manage these problems. So it's true for any training, but with this kind of certification, with training, that we have an overview of what a PMO can do and what can we do in the PMO. It will help you just to be better in your job, to be less stressed, because when you don't know, it's really a stressful situation. When we know things that it's normal, it's put the stress a little less stress, and you can go ahead after that.
Absolutely. I think that's a real key point you just made there. Eileen, did you want to add to Patrick?
Well, just one little thing to add, and again, building on what Patrick said, it's a great place to meet other people who are in the same position as you, and you're sitting on a course with other people who've obviously read the course description, recognizing it's a need for them. So actually, the really good things you get out of course, and all of the trainers are quality assured and really good, but actually there's a huge amount you get from actually speaking to other people who are doing the same job in a different organization. Really, really helpful for networking.
Yeah, that's another benefit of the courses as well. So now that we kind of understand a bit more about why we need PMO certification, Eileen, can you continue and can you explain the House of PMO certifications?
Okay, so the first suite of certifications that we've now released is called the Essentials certification. So they're based on the PMO competence framework, which is a competence framework that was developed by an international group of PMO practitioners. And as we went through that, we recognized there was 4 real kind of levels of role within a PMO. There was an administrator role, a PMO analyst, a PMO manager, and a PMO director. And so what we've done is we've created some certification, which are the essentials for each of those 4 roles. So if you're going into an administrator role, you do the essentials for PMO administrator. And interestingly, even if you're going in as a PMO director, you may not necessarily have a huge amount of PMO experience or not necessarily understand the breadth of what's expected of a PMO director. So we have, again, the essentials for a PMO director, where you're sitting on a course with some like-minded individuals who perhaps held a senior post in other parts of the organization and really want to get around the context and the breadth and depth of the role of what the PMO director can be, so you can have accelerate to being kind of adding value to your role and really kind of work with the organization to get the best out of the PMO, rather than kind of working just on perhaps what your limited knowledge and experience has been of PMOs.
Absolutely. Lindsay, was there something you wanted to add to that as well?
I think in terms of, it's like Eileen had said, it's that with these certifications, I think what was missing before is yes, it's you working in a project environment or a program or a portfolio, and actually, having somewhere there is a standard. And we recognise that, with the House of PMO and the competency framework, there's 4 levels: the admin, analyst, manager and director. But we also recognise that there are other roles, obviously, within PMO. But those are generally, the areas where people naturally tend to fall. One of the reasons why it took us so long to do this is that people said it wasn't possible. It wasn't possible to have a competency framework for people in PMO because every PMO is different. And actually, yes, the business reasons for why there's a PMO in that particular organisation may differ from somebody else's, but there is a list of services and functions that are offered by a PMO, but are very, very similar. And the way that they're offered is similar, but also in some cases different. So it's unhelpful to say it couldn't be standardised, because that's part of the battle for people working within PMO is not to have that, to be able to say, look, there is a role, and this is where it fits in terms of a career path, and this is where it fits within our organisation wider change delivery department. And just having that and having these certifications that align to the individual role is actually really powerful for people, because it is about my job. And I think when you meet people that are passionate about PMO, they want to stay in PMO. They don't want to be project managers. It's a career in its own right. And to have qualifications that are very aligned to what they do has been really, really well received. And Eileen and I are just, are overjoyed that we didn't listen to people and said that it couldn't be done, because it can. And it has.
Yes. We're overjoyed as well. I think, the levels especially speak to so many different people. And you hit on a key point there that people will say, well, everyone's different. Every organization is different. But what you've done is you've taken with these different levels of certifications and you've made a standardization that everyone can relate to within those. So great job. So speaking of these certifications, to get a bit more specific, Patrick, who should be attending these classes?
Short answer, everyone that works in PMO. That's short answer, but we can elaborate on that. So you can participate in a public class that it's open to everyone that works in PMO, or you can have a private class that all the people in your PMO will participate in the same class. It will be very interesting because we will work together on the material that we have, and we will see what you are in the organization vis-a-vis these processes and this career path. So it's really interesting. The only thing that I would say, that if you go alone in a public class and you're part of a PMO, you want to do more, but sometimes it's a little difficult to go back alone in your organization and try to transform to take this and to put this in place alone without the other that have not the same language that you got from the training. So I really recommend, if you have a big PMO, to bring more than 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people in these training. The value is the first value is to speak the same language, and it's when you are able to speak the same language, you can build on that. So that's the first recommendation, I will say. But it's open to everyone, people that works in PMO or people that want to work in PMO.
Yeah, that's important to address both those audiences. And what you were talking about with, if you can have a group from your organization attend, it is great. I've been on similar trainings where you attend yourself, you get so excited, you learn so many new things, and you take it back, and then the momentum starts to slowly go away because not everyone is on board with you. Whereas if you go back with the team and you're all excited and you all have this new information, then the momentum keeps up. So, if you can, it's absolutely great to attend as a group.
Yes.
So thank you for that. And let's just go on to our next question. So this one is for Lindsay. Can you tell me, with all the different trainings available, how the House of PMO certifications differentiate from other PMO training?
Okay, all right. So the biggest difference is the PMO training that's out there at the moment tends to focus on how to set up a PMO, how to put a PMO in place. A little bit like as Patrick was saying, you go on some training, it's a transformational thing that you're doing. You're putting a PMO in place for the first time, or your PMO is struggling and you're wanting to refresh it and re-energize it and change it again. The difference with these is that these courses, these certifications, are about you as an individual working within a PMO. So those are about, setting up PMOs within the organization. These are very much focused on your individual competencies, knowledge, skills, and behaviors you need to do well in the roles. And that's been the core difference. And the main driver for Eileen and I, when we were thinking about, what will these be like? And they're taken, and the syllabuses and the training are taken directly from the role profile, which anybody can go and read in the back of the competency framework. So that the certifications are very much in going into the detail of, what is expected of you around some of the core competencies. So we get into things like, what's required of me around risk management, change control, benefits management, all of those competency areas that we know people need to know about and often struggle with too, because there is no specific training for them. So, but yeah, I'm sure Eileen will pick up from that and give you a bit more.
Certainly, Eileen.
And I think that, kind of again, building on what Lindsay said, they're very much built for the individuals, but we differentiate between the roles. So, if you go on some PMO courses, there's one PMO course that everybody in the PMO goes on. So whether, kind of regardless whether you're an analyst or an administrator. So you're learning kind of very generic things about what the PMO does or what the PMO can do. When you go on the essentials courses, you're learning, well, actually, we cover off the risk management competence. Well, what are you going to do as an administrator? Now, that's quite different, perhaps, to what you're going to be doing with risk management as a PMO analyst. And again, we think differently about how we support risk as a PMO manager and as a PMO director. So it gives us an opportunity to look at the competencies and what the PMO can do through different lenses of those roles, which means it just feels so much more applicable for the people who are attending the course, because they can immediately register with, and now I know what my contribution is to the organization, what my value is to the organization. And as Lindsay mentioned before, that's when you actually just feel a lot more confident that I'm not just learning about risk management in general. It's what I can do to make a difference to risk management in the organization.
Yeah, it's being so specific makes a huge difference. I just want to pause really quick and just say to our live viewers, if you have any questions for our panel, please submit them into the chat function on either LinkedIn or YouTube. Would be happy to take them. So we'll be taking those in a little bit, but please submit any questions that you have today. So another thing to consider is how these certifications fit in with what people already have. So Patrick, how do you see the House of PMO certifications fitting in with other certifications? For example, PMI Praxis.
It's complementary. Like Lindsay and Eileen explained, it's that the House of PMO is focused on the people that work in the PMO. PMI, Praxis, Prince2 are all training certification framework that focus on the delivery of project. So what we are focusing in House of PMO is the work of the people in the PMO. What is exactly their role? How they are supporting any other certification is there to deliver project. What they are doing in the PMO is to know, of course, all of these framework, and is just to how they can be a good support for them. So it's really complementary. And the House of PMO is, I think, we are using the practice methodology to help people understand the big processes in an organization. But if it's not practice, it's PMI or it's Prince2, it's the same thing. It's really the way that we are delivering the projects. And for the PMO, it's how can we support, how can we manage our career in the House of the PMO.
Eileen?
I think the just to add to that, we are using Praxis because we need to refer to some project management method, and Praxis we use because it's freely available on the website, and we know it's aligned to our work. But deliberately within some of the terminology, we do use some PMI language, we use some APM language, we use some IPMA language. So we recognize that PMO people might work in an organization that use any different set of terminology. We also cover off some of the agile terminology as well. So we have tried to make it fit and recognize the different terminology and language that's used by all of the different methodologies and frameworks that are out there.
Yeah, that's so important. And it also applies to so many people. So they don't see this as something completely standalone. This is something that complements a lot of the knowledge that they already have. So
Absolutely.
now that now that our audience knows a bit more about what a PMO is and what the House of PMO does and why get certified, Lindsay, can you tell us where the audience can find resources to help them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the House of PMO has always been about and find strength in more informal learning and also learning from each other. And I think one of the beauties about working in a PMO role is it's one of those jobs where you're often thinking, you get problems and you're thinking, what's the best way to do this? Do we need to have a rethink about a particular process, or does there need to be a meeting here, or why is that stage gate not working, and things like that. And I think it's not about a PMO role in a modern day is not about just filling out templates and passing it on to people and collating reports. And, it is very much a thinking role. And at House of PMO, what we do, we run events every week and articles and things like that will get you to think. Because there's no point, as we know, each PMO is different within each organisation. Therefore, we know there's not a standard answer. There's a good answer, but actually it's not going to fit for everybody, which is why it's crucial that if you're wanting a good career in PMO, that you are somebody that is curious, that likes to ask questions and try and find out a way forward and a solution that will work for your organisation. And that's what House of PMO does. We run so many different kind of events and virtual things and webinars and all those kind of things about different areas that we all need to know about. So 1 minute it could be we're doing something around agile and hybrid reporting. The next it can be a softer subject around things like EI, empathy, and bias, and all and everything in between. So that's what it's like. It's not just a place to go and download a template. It is a place that will make you think.
Yeah, that's completely true. I've been to your website, and the amount of resources and information there is amazing, and it's so helpful for the audience. So, Eileen, did you have something to add to that?
Just our plan for the next year is not just to kind of do more events, but actually kind of spend some more time building up our resources for PMO, so things like checklists and templates. That's on our roadmap to kind of develop some of these, and so we've got more kind of tangible resources that people can use in their PMOs as well.
That's great. We'll be looking forward to seeing those. So let's take our next question, which is for Patrick. So what should my next steps be?
Contact us if you are interested to get you trained or your team trained. In Okazy, we offer House of PMO, the level of administrator, analyst, and manager in public class in beginning of 2023. So just contact us, and if you need to train all your team, we can do something with for you, a private class or something like that. So just contact us. You have the QR code that you can go on our website and ask what you need, and we gladly open to discuss with you.
Great, perfect. Lindsay?
Yeah, and I'd just like to say, one of the things that we're really, really pleased about was there's training providers like Okazy that are, they've worked in PMOs themselves. They absolutely know what it's like, and to be able to offer, the courses, you're going to have a really great training experience. And the only other thing that I would say in terms of next steps, if you're listening to this today and you are in Canada, give us a shout out, drop us a line on LinkedIn or YouTube and get in touch. We'd love to know where you are, what you're doing with your PMO. And if you've got a story to share, we'd love to hear it, because again, House of PMO, you get so much, the members, and get so much out of listening how other people are doing this kind of thing. And, so yeah, get in touch.
And the more people that reach out, the more of a community it becomes as well. So to our viewers, please watch for the QR codes that will be on the screen throughout the show. You can scan those, go right to the website for training, to the House of PMO for more resources. So I do want to start taking some live questions so that we can fit those in the time. So let's take our first live question. How does ISO 21500-2021 feature in your experience from a PMO perspective? And is ISO compliance a potential vehicle for raising the importance of the PMO function? Eileen?
Well, I'll start on that one. So the interesting bit, so whether we use ISO or whether we use any other framework, ISO is one particular flavor of a framework that helps the organization understand what needs to be in place to have effective project and program management. So I think it's kind of, we don't need to look at that specific ISO framework, but it could be any. I think the important word in there is compliance. And I think compliance is one particular aspect, but I would prefer to use assurance. So assurance looks at ensuring and giving the organization, given the sponsors, given the executives confidence that the projects are delivering successfully. Now, part of that assurance is saying, are we doing things in the right way? Or if we continue doing them in the way we're doing them, are we going to get to the right end result? But compliance in its own right doesn't necessarily going to mean you're going to get to your end result. So I prefer kind of compliance to be broadened to assurance. And that is absolutely a lot of the reasons why organizations set PMOs up in the first place, because back to the question, chief execs ask their personal assistant, get me a list of the projects and tell me how they're going. Tell me that, give me some confidence that all of this money that we're investing on projects is actually going to deliver some benefits back to the organization.
Thank you for that. Let's go ahead and take our next question so that we have time to get through some of these. And thank you again to the audience for submitting these questions. What is the objective of a PMO? Lindsay?
Oh, I get this asked all the time, and I've kind of nailed it, I think, really quick answer. I believe it's two things. Is one, that the PMO supports and enables effective decision making by the right people. And the second one is that the PMO provides the ecosystem for an organization's projects, programs, and portfolios to be successful. Yeah, so it's the body that puts all the things in place that allows projects to run well, projects and portfolios. That's my. I've got it down there to a pattern. I'm not going to talk anymore. That's it. That's the objective.
Patrick?
I will take this, Lindsay. It's really good at 2 points. It's perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Yes, you've got that down. So thank you for that question from that viewer. That was perfect question, perfect answer. So let's see if we can do the same thing with the next live question. If I was to attend a course, should I go for the level I already am or aspiring to be? Who wants to take that one, Eileen?
I'm happy to start that one.
Okay.
I didn't know whether kind of Patrick wanted to do that specifically from kind of a Okazy
go ahead. I
perspective.
will add something.
No, that's fine. It really depends on kind of where you are. So if I'm sitting there and I've been a PMO administrator for, kind of 2 or 3 years, and I'm thinking about, in the next 12 months, I want to be moving up to an analyst course, I would suggest definitely start going on the analyst course. But if I've gone into an analyst role, which is much more interesting, if I go into the analyst role, it's a much broader role. And then, so even if I've been in a analyst role for perhaps kind of a year, 18 months, and I've got some specific experience, say, in a project office, but I've never supported a program, then actually going on the analyst course may open your eyes to a broader range of things that you as an analyst, rather than just as a within your current knowledge and understanding.
Patrick, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would just add to be sure that you have a career path that you want to what you want to go in PMO. So like Eileen said, if you begin the role of administrator, of course, be sure that you are well comfortable in your role before going to the next level. If it's a 2 or 3 years experience of administrator, of course, go ahead and go to the PMO analyst. The important thing is that you are comfortable in the role that you are. What we are giving you is tools to be comfortable. So if you want to go further, go further. So it's not a problem. But be sure where you are comfortable. If you're not, take the course that you need to take.
Yeah, that's key, is where you're comfortable at now and what you're doing now, and then see where you want to go with that. Lindsay, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
No, you've done it beautifully, the pair of you.
Thank you both. Let's take our next live question. How many hours are the courses in length? Patrick, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'm just calculating the hours.
Thinking.
I was going to do it in days.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. It's more in days. So it's if I remember well, it's 3 days for administrator, 3 days for analyst, and 4 days for manager, if I remember well. Sometimes what we can do, it's now mix
Eileen?
5 day for analysts. There we go. 5 day for analysts. So sometimes what we are doing when we offer the class is that we have extended hours. So we shortened the number of days to enter in maybe 4 days instead of 5, but we have the same number of hours. So sometimes it's worth it because a lot of people are not able to go outside from a week. So we have a long day, but it's less time in days.
I mean, people have asked, like, why is the analyst course, the longer one? There you go, Eileen. I'm taking over now. Like, why would the analyst course be longer than the other ones, in your opinion?
And I think, as I mentioned, it's the analyst role that's probably the broadest role for the PMO, and one that you tend to be in for longer, and you can do so many different things. And so there's an awful lot of competencies to cover off in the analyst role. It's great because it should cover off the things that you currently do within your PMO. It will give you some insight into perhaps what some of the other delegates do in PMO or in their role, but it also allows you to start thinking about, well, actually, do I want to become a specialist in one of these areas? And as we know that in the PMO at the analyst level, there tends to be specialists, whether that be in controls, whether that be in kind of planning and scheduling, whether that be in risk management, whether it be in tools. So we need to kind of cover off all of that breadth when we're at the analyst level.
Thank you. We do have 2 more live questions that have come in, so I want to get to both of those. The next one is, do you have any software to use to develop strategy support in our PMO?
I will say any tools. It's good, but the important thing is that your processes are the right one. The tools will just need to support your processes. So any tools, but the process has to be the right one. So don't think about the tools before, then the processes. I will say that as a short answer.
Mm-hmm. Eileen?
And I just, it's an interesting question. Lindsay and I have this conversation several times when it comes to the House of PMO and events, because you can imagine a lot of software suppliers want to come on and kind of sell their goods to our audience. And we do allow some, we do have some sponsoring opportunities at the conference, but as Patrick said, we try to keep it tool independent because there's so many tools out there. It would be difficult for us to kind of recommend an individual tool. And we are going to have, Lindsay and I have been talking about having a couple of sessions to start looking at kind of how tools can help. But again, trying to avoid recommending tools because there's so much more needs to be taken into account when you're buying a tool for your organization.
Yeah, agreed on that one. So let's go on to our next.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Sorry, I've just
go back to that.
There is one tool that we use. So if you're a member of the House of PMO, we give you access to a tool called CAMEA, which allows you to do a competency assessment of yourself against the PMO competency framework. The role profiles for admin, analyst, manager, and director are in the tool already. So you'll just kind of click on which role that you're trying to assess yourself against. So that, in terms of development support in the PMO, that might be the answer to the question rather than PMO tools. So if you become a member, a live member of the House of PMO, you'll get access to that tool.
Well, that's great. And I think that goes back to the other question as well as to which level people should start at or take next. Thank you. So let's take our next live question. This is great. Thank you, audience, for sending in all of these questions today. Should I wait and gain experience after doing the first course before proceeding to the next level?
Me personally, and I think it is a very personal thing, is that you tend to know, you tend to know based on, you know, how you're doing your role, what's happening around it. It also tends to be, you know, where you are in your career and whether that opportunity is there to move on to a next one. I think the most, from a House PMO point of view, I think the one that most people are really interested in is that move from being an analyst to a manager. It's a little easier, I think, from the administrator to analyst, but the analyst to the manager one is, you know, is considered to probably be the biggest jump out of all of them. And I would say that that would be definitely where you would see a gap between the two. You know, as you can probably imagine, just having a manager in the title of a role is all sorts of difference from being an analyst. So yeah, I mean, it tends to be, you know, certainly with the moving from a admin to an analyst one, you know, it could be that you're, again, probably driven by your organization. If you're taking on more responsibilities because you've been a brilliant administrator, because that's what tends to happen, let's face it. Yeah, when you're working in a PMO, if you're one of those people that really, like, you know, goes out of the way and does a brilliant job all the time, and you quickly get promoted to that analyst level, and you might find that happens quite quickly. So again, you know, it's just different circumstances, but that's generally between those roles is where you would say, yeah, I might do the admin and analyst within a year if I have, but analyst to manager would be 2, 3, 4 years. You never know.
Mm-hmm. That's a good differentiation of those. Thank you. So let's take our last. Oh, Eileen, did you have something to add to that?
I was just going to add a couple of organisations where we deal with corporate members. It's been quite interesting because their PMO manager has gone on the administrator, analyst and manager course just to validate the course and just to recognise what those differences are. And I'm sure Patrick would love to have customers who do that.
Yeah.
Yes. So speaking of that, we're going to take our last live question, and that is the training available online? Patrick?
Or not yet for us.
Do you mean online as in, I do believe that most people, you know, in the world the way it is that virtual classroom training is still, you know, a way that most people are delivering courses. If you mean, is the training available kind of like e-learning? No, not yet. And you know, I'd hate it to be, but because we've just talked about this role being about connections with people, learning from each other, you know, but I recognize that it might be something that has to come because that's the way that some people like to learn, but not for me though.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's difficult to know with this question as well. Is it available online? Because are there virtual classes available?
Yeah, virtual classes, but not e-learning.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. We do have one more. So it is important to understand the processes and procedures. Is it important to understand the processes and procedures within the PMO services? Eileen?
So the answer is yes. And I think when we look at the courses and what are covered off in the courses, we look at PMO services. So what is it the PMOs do, and what do you do in your role to contribute to the delivery of those services? But the individual procedures will be down to your organisation, because funding will be done differently in one organisation to the way project funding is done in another organisation. But what we'll understand is the kind of the process, the high level process. So the detailed procedures will be in your organisation, but the high level process for making sure we have the justification, making sure that it's presented in a way and the types of information it holds and who that information needs to get presented to and the decisions get made is part of what we cover off in the course, because we're saying in order for you to be able to do your role to support the delivery, you actually need to understand those high level processes, and part of your role, particularly as a PMO analyst, is to start writing what those detailed procedures will be to support the processes in your organization.
Thank you. So with that, and with time running out, thank you again for the live questions, and thank you to the panel. This has been an amazing and really informative show. We've talked about a lot in a short period of time. So with that, I'd like to just go to closing comments to each of you. Let's just go through the panel. Patrick?
We are waiting for your to connect with us, so don't hesitate, and we are there to offer a great training on House of PMO.
Thank you. Lindsay?
Well, me and Eileen are available to travel all the way across Canada to say hello to every single PMO person. And so, yeah, no, seriously though, if you'd like to know more about what the House of PMO qualifications are like, and just take a look at the website and come and join us. The door is open.
Absolutely. Eileen?
And we will continue to be developing further materials and certification, and we do call on the community to help us to design that, because we want it to be fit for the people, and as our competency framework says, developed for the community by the community.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So viewers, don't be shy. Reach out to each of the panelists with your questions, with training needs, to become part of the community. So thank you again to the panel and for being here today, and to all the live viewers. And with that, we'd like to close out today's show. So don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow APMG on LinkedIn to stay up to date with our latest news and, of course, our Connect episodes. We'll be back in January when we'll be talking about how to become a better technical communicator. So until then, see you next time.